record oil production cuts until the end of July, prolonging a deal that has helped crude prices double in the past 2 months by withdrawing almost 10% of global supplies from the market. Benchmark Brent crude climbed by $2.31 or 5.46% to $42.30 a barrel, while United States West Texas Intermediate was up $2.14 or 5.41% to $39.55 a barrel. OPEC Plus had initially agreed in April that it would cut supply by 9.7 million barrels per day during May-June to prop up prices that collapsed due to the coronavirus crisis. Saudi Energy Minister Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman told the video conference of OPEC Plus ministers that demand is returning as big oil-consuming economies emerge from pandemic lockdown. Saudi Arabia and Russia have to perform a balancing act of pushing up oil prices to meet their budget needs while not driving them much above $50 a barrel to avoid encouraging a resurgence of rival U.S. shale production. Saudi Arabia and Russia have to perform a balancing act of pushing up oil prices to meet their budget needs while not driving them much above $50 a barrel to avoid encouraging a resurgence of rival U.S. shale production. It was not immediately clear whether Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Kuwait will extend beyond June their additional voluntary cuts of 1.18 million barrels per day, which are not part of the deal. As global lockdowns ease, oil demand is expected to exceed supply sometime in July, but OPEC has yet to clear 1 billion barrels of excess oil inventories accumulated since March. Nigeria's Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Chief Timipre Silva, affirmed the nation's commitment to adhere to the production cuts. OPEC Plus Joint Ministerial Monitoring Committee, known as the JMMC, will meet monthly until December to review the market, compliance, and recommend levels of cuts. JMMC's next meeting is scheduled for June 18. Thanks for watching. I am Owigo Okolo.
In order to make sure that we deliver on this expectation of our shareholders and all of us, we do need to have new minds in our company. Younger people, smarter people. I believe that all of you are very smart people. But this company at this point in time, more than many other times, require the help and support and service of very smart young people who are cut for this generation.
That's our package and oil and gas forum this edition. Thanks for joining us. To keep safe, hey, one is not enough. Hand washing, hand sanitizing, face masking, safe spacing. We got to do all to do to be safe and stay safe. Bye-bye now.
This is the network service of the NTA.
Audio Jungle. economy in the 5 years of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration was eventful, characterized by resilience to shocks and uncertainties. While the economy has witnessed some low moments, experts insist that the Buhari-led administration has made remarkable progress in repositioning the economy for greatness in due time. It was not a perfect take-up for the Buhari administration in 2015. The economy was challenged by falling oil prices, which constitutes the greater part of the nation's revenue source, turbulent financial markets, and weak macroeconomic indices. 1 year into the first tenure of the Buhari-led administration, the Nigerian economy entered into a recession.
The government of President Muhammadu Buhari came into governance in 2015. And what was inherited was an economy that was weak. We had very low foreign reserves. We had an economy that was highly dependent on imports. And the major export we had was crude oil. So we're over-dependent on crude oil prices. We also saw an economy that was clearly going to slide into recession. So what we did at that time was to take stock and decided that since this recession is going to happen, that we have to be prepared to react to it so that even when it happens, it doesn't last for long. So we did a strategic implementation plan initially for the 2016 budget, whose focus was to reflate the economy. And we quickly followed that up by the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, whose main purpose also was to pull the economy out of recession, set the economy on the path of growth that is both diversified as well as sustainable. The president decided that his aim is to grow the economy, fight corruption, and enhance the security and the welfare of the people. But he directed that he wanted to make sure that when we grow the economy, that the growth is inclusive. And that's how come we had to roll out the social investment program. That program was specifically designed to ensure that the growth that we seek to attain includes the poor and the most vulnerable.
Frantic steps were taken, and the government put together the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, ERGP. It is a medium-term plan with the objectives of restoring growth, investing in the people, and building a globally competitive economy. This worked well with the budget and the medium-term expenditure framework (MTEF), and Nigeria spent her way out of recession faster than anticipated in 2017.
The Economic Recovery and Growth Plan took some time to design because we had to consult extensively. We consulted the National Assembly. We consulted the states, the governors, commissioners of planning. We consulted our development partners. And most importantly, we consulted the private sector, the general public, to make sure that we integrated their views and to make sure that there was a buy-in. Because as a government, you have a clear idea of what you want. But if people don't feel they are part of it, they will not give you the necessary support and cooperation. So we had a number of sessions with private sector participants. We invited them, presented them with the plan, and got their buy-in. It was at the end of that the president launched and announced the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. It was very well received. It is a very good plan. All the commentaries were positive. And we started implementing that plan, and we got ourselves out of the difficulties. We are now out of recession, and the economy is beginning to grow again.
In rebuilding the economy, critical steps were taken with the aim of halting wastages and reducing fiscal leakages, increasing the nation's revenue base, refinancing high-cost short-term domestic debt with relatively cheaper and longer tenured external debt, assets tracking, and management and fiscal sustainability plans.
We had the potential to solve our problem, but we didn't have the enabling infrastructure. So we focused very strongly on infrastructure. We increased the amount of spending on infrastructure from 10% of expenditure to 30%. So we pumped money into roads, into rail, into power. We pumped money into those things that would really grow the economy. We began to work very hard on the state governments because we recognize that in many states, once the state government can't pay salaries, all activity really stops. You know, once the school teacher doesn't get paid, headmistress isn't getting paid, you know, even basic education would stop. So we stabilized the states. We helped them with bailout funds of their salary arrears, and we also helped them by addressing the issues of the Paris Club refund, so they would have some money to do and keep things going during the dark days of the recession. And then when things began obviously to improve, we're now reaping the benefits. So this government really did a lot to try and stabilize the economic situation, and we thank God that the medicine appears to be working, and there's still a lot to do.
Globalization and advancement in technology, climate change, and a rapid growing population made it more glaring that the private sector would have to be very actively involved in executing the plans of government. The desire of the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari to fully diversify the economy, bring economic growth at par with the demographics, address unemployment as well as provide basic infrastructural needs is contained in the 2020 to 2022 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper.
And what we did was to spend heavily on infrastructure, because infrastructure has the impact of igniting economic activity. So when you spend on infrastructure, there's a long value chain effect of other sectors within the economy, and you're putting monies in the hands of people. You're paying contractors, but there's a trickle down effect. After pulling the economy out of recession, the monetary authorities also had worked assiduously to manage the inflation, because as a result of recession, you end up having inflation as one of the consequences of recession. We had a time when inflation rate was as high as 18%. Now that has consistently been reducing to now we have about 11.08%. The monetary authorities also at some point had to deregulate the naira, and we got to a point where the naira was as high as 500 naira to the US dollars. But over time, they were able to manage the currency to the extent that the NIFEX and the NAPEX windows merged, and now we have at least a stable rate that is averaging about 360%. So what that does is it provides predictability to investors, knowing what the value of the currency is. Our foreign reserves was at some point as low as 23 billion US dollars. Now it's up to about 44 billion US dollars. So there are a number of measures that the president and his team took to make sure that we have a stable economy. Going forward, in the next 3 to 4 years, the focus is still the same. It is still to grow the economy. It is to continue the fight against corruption, and also to continue to strengthen and enhance the security and the welfare of citizens.
The administration then focused attention on supporting micro, small and medium enterprises. The Development Bank of Nigeria, DBN, was set up with an initial funding of $1.3 billion to provide medium and long-term loans to MSMEs. Since 2017, the DBN has disbursed a total of 100 billion naira through the bank's 27 participating financial institutions, impacting more than 100,000 MSMEs. 52% of loans disbursed in 2019 were to youths and women-owned businesses. The Bank of Industry has disbursed more than 400 billion naira in loans to large, medium, small and micro enterprises since 2016. It has also established a 5 billion naira fund for artisanal miners as part of the Federal Ministry of Mines and Solid Minerals Development Program to boost mining activities in Nigeria, as well as a $20 million fund to support young technology entrepreneurs in the country. The MSME clinics have allowed relevant agencies to better understand the issues facing small businesses and provide a platform for speedy resolution with the Ease of Doing Business Reform Program, moving Nigeria on the World Bank Index 39 places since 2016 to 131 on the 2020 ranking. In the last 3 years, Nigeria has twice been adjudged one of the 10 most improved economies in the rankings.
Fortunately, the president also considers it one of his top priorities. Therefore, he set up a council, the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, which is chaired by the vice president and includes many ministers, central bank, and other arms of government in terms of just a cross-cutting initiative